Welcome to the all-new Hoop Nova, your ultimate source for everything basketball.
Gather around, everyone, because there's some surprising news to unpack. Jayson Tatum was hosting a youth basketball camp through his foundation in St. Louis, sharing advice about leadership, humility, and always being willing to learn. Everything sounded routine until he suddenly made one unexpected comment that instantly grabbed everyone's attention. Jayson Tatum's leadership speech at a youth basketball camp might have seemed like a routine moment, but one sentence changed everything. Standing in front of a gym full of young players, Tatum encouraged them to stay humble, ask questions, and never assume they were the smartest person in the room. On the surface, it sounded like ordinary leadership advice, but basketball fans immediately noticed something strange. Just weeks earlier, anonymous NBA executives had publicly described Jaylen Brown using almost those exact words, accusing him of acting like he believed he was the smartest guy in every room. The timing was impossible to ignore. Those comments about Brown had already sparked controversy. After hearing what was said, Brown quickly responded during a live stream. Instead of ignoring the criticism, he challenged the entire idea behind it. He explained that intelligence comes in many different forms and insisted he had never gone around believing he was better or smarter than everyone else. Brown even joked that professional sports sometimes set a surprisingly low standard for what people consider intelligence. His response earned praise from many fans who felt the criticism was unfair and based on anonymous opinions rather than facts. Then came Tatum's camp speech. Not only did he repeat almost the exact same phrase, but he later shared the clip on his own social media. That single decision reignited every rumor surrounding the former Celtics stars. For weeks, people had debated whether there was tension between Tatum and Brown after Boston decided to move Brown in a blockbuster trade. Until that moment, there had been no real evidence that the two teammates had personal issues with one another. Most of the conversation had been fueled by speculation, anonymous reports, and social media theories. But once Tatum highlighted that speech himself, many fans began wondering whether it was more than just an innocent coincidence. Former NBA guard Brandon Jennings was among those who believed there was hidden meaning behind the message. After watching the clip, Jennings reposted it and suggested it was clearly aimed at Brown rather than simply being motivational advice for children. That reaction only poured more fuel onto an already burning story. To be fair, Jayson Tatum has never publicly admitted he was talking about Jaylen Brown. Every report covering the incident carefully used words like appeared or seemingly, because no direct evidence exists, proving the speech was meant as a personal shot. It's entirely possible that Tatum simply used a common leadership phrase without thinking about the recent headlines. Still, context matters. Only a few weeks earlier, Boston had traded Jaylen Brown to Philadelphia, instantly creating one of the most talked about teams in the NBA. Suddenly, Brown found himself alongside Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and LeBron James on a roster many people considered a championship favorite. Excitement around Philadelphia exploded almost overnight, with veterans reportedly willing to accept smaller contracts just for the chance to compete there. Meanwhile, Boston's situation looked very different. Instead of adding another superstar, the Celtics were entering a new chapter built around an aging Paul George and an injured Tatum recovering from a devastating Achilles injury. Watching your longtime teammate land on what many viewed as a better team, while your own championship window suddenly became uncertain, would naturally create plenty of emotions. Whether intentional or not, Tatum's choice of words suddenly carried much more weight because of everything happening around him. The deeper story, however, stretches back far beyond one speech. For nearly a decade, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown formed one of the NBA's best young duos. Together, they reached multiple Eastern Conference Finals, made 2 NBA Finals appearances, and eventually captured a championship. On paper, they represented the perfect partnership, yet one question never disappeared. Whose team was it? Tatum entered the league as the higher draft pick and quickly became the face of the franchise. He earned first-team All-NBA honors, became Boston's primary scorer, and appeared on nearly every promotional campaign the organization produced. Brown, however, arrived 1 year earlier. He had already begun building his place within the franchise before Tatum was drafted, and he never appeared comfortable simply accepting the role of second option. Every season, media members and fans debated which player was truly Boston's leader. While both players consistently dismissed those conversations publicly, the comparisons never stopped. Everything became even more complicated after Boston finally won the championship. Although Tatum remained the franchise centerpiece, it was Brown who captured both Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP. Those awards instantly changed the conversation. Instead of simply being Tatum's co-star, Brown now possessed the biggest individual accomplishments from Boston's championship run. Publicly, both players celebrated together. Privately, nobody truly knows whether those awards affected their relationship. The following season created another unexpected twist. Tatum suffered a serious Achilles injury that forced him to miss nearly the entire year. For the first time since becoming teammates, Brown was unquestionably the leader of the Celtics. Without sharing the spotlight, he delivered the best basketball of his career. Brown posted career highs in scoring, rebounding, and assists while earning All-NBA honors and finishing among the league's MVP candidates. Despite widespread expectations that Boston would struggle without Tatum, Brown helped guide the team to one of the Eastern Conference's best records. When reflecting on that season, Brown made a comment that many people later viewed differently. He called it the most enjoyable season of his professional career, not the championship season, not the year they finally reached the top together. Instead, the season where he alone carried the Celtics became his favorite. For many observers, that statement suggested Brown enjoyed having complete control of the team in a way he never experienced while sharing responsibilities with Tatum. Soon afterward, Boston decided to move in a different direction. Brown was traded, ending one of the NBA's longest-running partnerships. Almost immediately, anonymous reports began surfacing about disagreements, personality differences, and frustrations that supposedly existed behind closed doors for years. Executives questioned Brown's personality. Rumors emerged about Tatum's camp being unhappy with Brown's public comments, and fans started connecting every small detail from their time together. Perhaps the most noticeable moment came during Brown's farewell messages. Thanked numerous teammates and members of the organization for supporting him throughout his career. Yet many fans noticed one obvious omission. Jayson Tatum's name was missing. Was that intentional? Nobody outside those two players truly knows. That's what makes this story so fascinating. Very little has been confirmed publicly, but the timing of comments, anonymous reports, social media posts, and personal statements has created one of the NBA's biggest off-season mysteries. Whether the relationship between Tatum and Brown truly fractured behind the scenes, or whether fans are simply connecting unrelated events, remains unknown. Until either player chooses to tell the full story, the debate will continue, leaving basketball fans wondering what really happened between two stars who once looked destined to spend their entire careers together. After Jaylen Brown's departure from Boston, fans noticed something unusual. During his farewell message, Brown thanked numerous teammates, coaches, and members of the organization who had supported him throughout his career. However, one name was missing: Jayson Tatum. Considering the two had spent nearly a decade together, won countless playoff games, and captured an NBA championship side by side, the omission immediately fueled speculation that their relationship wasn't as strong as many believed. Naturally, reporters wanted answers. The first person questioned was Celtics president Brad Stevens. Many wondered whether Tatum had any influence over Boston's decision to trade his longtime teammate. Stevens' response was simple and direct. Tatum had no input in the move. Soon afterward, head coach Joe Mazzulla was asked the same question. His answer echoed the organization's official position. He explained that while conversations always happen internally, the decision ultimately came from the front office, not from the players or coaching staff. That explanation raised even more questions. If the franchise player wasn't involved and the head coach wasn't making the decision either, then who ultimately chose to break apart one of the NBA's most successful duos? According to Boston, it was purely a front office decision, based on the team's long-term direction. Whether fans believe that explanation is another story, one thing Joe Mazzulla made very clear was his appreciation for Jaylen Brown. Rather than criticizing his former star, Mazzulla praised Brown's work ethic, leadership, and competitive spirit. He even admitted that coaching Brown made him a better coach because Brown constantly challenged everyone around him to improve. It was an emotional tribute that reflected genuine respect after years of working together. That made the contrast even more noticeable. While Mazzulla publicly thanked Brown for everything he accomplished in Boston, many fans focused on Tatum's leadership speech and wondered if it carried a hidden message. Whether intentional or not, people couldn't stop comparing the two moments. Then another major factor entered the conversation. Unlike most blockbuster trades, Brown wasn't sent across the country. Instead, Boston traded him to Philadelphia, a division rival. That means there will be no shortage of opportunities for both stars to face each other. Their first preseason meeting is already one of the NBA's most anticipated games. After that, they'll meet multiple times during the regular season, and if both teams perform as expected, another playoff showdown becomes a real possibility. Every matchup will be analyzed from every angle, with cameras constantly searching for reactions between the former teammates. That alone guarantees one of next season's biggest storylines. Imagine Brown returning to TD Garden wearing a 76ers uniform for the first time. The same arena where he celebrated championships. The same fans who cheered him for nearly a decade. Across the court will stand Tatum, the teammate he shared countless unforgettable moments with. It will be emotional regardless of whether any personal issues truly exist. Tatum himself has already admitted it will feel strange seeing Brown in another uniform after spending so many years together. That's a completely understandable reaction for someone who built his entire NBA career alongside the same teammate. So what really happened? The truth is probably much less dramatic than many people believe. Rather than one player betraying the other, this feels like the natural result of two elite competitors spending nearly 10 years competing for the same spotlight. Both entered Boston as young stars with championship potential. Every season they were compared against each other. Every playoff run sparked debates over who deserved more credit. Every success and every failure became another argument about which player mattered more. Very few teammates experienced that level of constant comparison. Despite all of that, they still reached 2 NBA finals and won an NBA championship together. That's an incredible accomplishment that many superstar duos never achieve. Eventually, however, reality caught up with Boston. The NBA's new collective bargaining agreement introduced much harsher financial penalties for teams carrying multiple maximum contracts. The second apron restrictions dramatically changed how championship contenders build their rosters. Suddenly, keeping 2 franchise players on enormous contracts became far more difficult than ever before. From a basketball perspective, that financial pressure likely became the biggest reason for the trade. Without the new salary cap rules, there's a strong argument that Tatum and Brown would still be teammates today. Boston probably would have continued chasing championships with the same core instead of making such a painful decision. That's why many analysts believe this move was driven more by economics than personal relationships. Still, one question remains difficult to ignore. Why did Boston ultimately choose Tatum instead of Brown? Brown had just completed arguably the best stretch of basketball in his career. He had earned Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and proven he could lead a team while Tatum recovered from injury. Meanwhile, Tatum was returning from a torn Achilles, one of the most serious injuries any basketball player can suffer. History shows that many stars never fully regain their previous athleticism after an Achilles tear. It's a legitimate concern for any franchise investing hundreds of millions of dollars. So why commit fully to Tatum? Perhaps the organization simply believes Tatum remains the better overall player and gives them the highest championship ceiling. Or perhaps personality played a role. Tatum has built a reputation as one of the NBA's most disciplined and media-friendly superstars. He rarely creates controversy, avoids public criticism, and almost never generates headlines unrelated to basketball. Brown, on the other hand, has always been more outspoken. Whether discussing social issues, responding to criticism, or speaking openly during live streams, Brown has never been afraid to express his opinions. Neither approach is necessarily right or wrong. They're simply different personalities. That difference may have influenced Boston's long-term thinking, just as much as basketball considerations. What makes this latest controversy so fascinating is that Tatum has spent nearly a decade avoiding public drama. Throughout his NBA career, he's carefully chosen his words and rarely provided headlines beyond his performances on the court. That's why his leadership speech attracted so much attention. Was repeating that phrase merely an innocent coincidence? Or did Tatum intentionally reference the criticism surrounding his former teammate? No one outside Tatum truly knows the answer. What is clear, however, is that he understood people would hear those words differently given everything that had happened over the previous few weeks. Sharing the clip on his own social media only amplified those discussions. In the end, this story isn't really about one speech at a basketball camp. It's about two all-star teammates who spent nearly a decade chasing the same dream together while constantly being compared against each other. They experienced championships, heartbreak, injuries, criticism, and enormous expectations. Eventually, business realities forced the partnership to end. Now they'll continue their careers on opposite sides of one of the NBA's fiercest rivalries, whether there's genuine tension between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown or simply years of accumulated pressure finally becoming visible remains a mystery. But one thing is certain. Every time Boston and Philadelphia meet next season, basketball fans everywhere will be watching, not just for the score, but for every glance, every interaction, and every moment between two former teammates whose story is far from over.